The Supreme Court declared racial segregation in schools to be unconstitutional in 1954. While schools in America are more racially diverse than they have ever been before, they are not racially mixed. Low-income minority children are consigned to lower quality education opportunities due to racist district borders / housing policies. I advocate that the government and state should help make it easier to integrate schools by providing financial support and technical expertise for all school districts. The Supreme Court's ruling in Miller v. Johnson in 1995 that racial gerrymandering is a violation of constitutional rights should be revised and updated because till this day we are getting racially discriminated and segregated against due to being a minority in schools till this day because of the district borders. So after 1954's Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court ruled that United States laws establishing racial segregation in public schools are unconstitutional. It didn't address, however, the racial imbalance of schools that are still happening across America, as noted in 1. Still separate, Still Unequal, Teaching About School Segregation and Educational Inequality by Keith Miato, Yale graduate and New York Times reporter, May 2nd, 2019. According to a recent Times article, more than half of the nation's school children are in racially concentrated districts where over 75% of students are either white or non-white. In addition, school districts are often segregated by income. The nexus of racial and economic segregation has intensified educational gaps between rich and poor students and between white students and students of color. So some may argue that schools filled with minorities provide equal educational opportunities as well, but that is not the case. As we see in 2. Unequal Opportunity, Race and Education by Linda Darling Hammond, Stanford University School of Education says, recent analysis of data prepared for school finance cases in Alabama, New Jersey, New York, Louisiana, and Texas have found that on every tangible measure from qualified teachings to curriculum offerings, schools serving greater number of students of color has significantly fewer resources than schools serving mostly white students. As William L. Taylor and Diane Pinch noted in a 1991 report to Congress, inequitable systems of school finance inflict disproportionate harm on minority and economically disadvantaged students. On an interstate basis, such students are concentrated in states, primarily in the South, that have the lowest capacities to finance public education. On an interstate basis, many of the states with the wildest disparities in educational expenditures are large industrial states. In these states, many minorities and economically disadvantaged students are located in poor urban districts which fare the worst educational expenditures, or in rural districts which suffer from fiscal inequity. So the Supreme Court ruling that partisan gerrymandering is beyond the reach of federal governments only worsens school racial segregation and distribution of property taxes should be changed. As shown in 3. Dismissed report by EdBuild, which is a nonprofit that investigates school funding inequities in 2019, they said 45 years ago, through court order, the United States Supreme Court made meaningful interdistrict integration impossible. In Milken v. Bradley, the court ruled that if children are separated by race, not because of laws, but because of district lines, then the courts have no ability to mandate integration across these borders. The plaintiffs in the case attended schools in Detroit, which was 66% black at the time. The Supreme Court recognized that Detroit was highly segregated both internally and from its neighbors, yet still ruled against a multi-district desegregation plan. Today, Detroit public schools is a 98% non-white, enrolling only one white student for every 49 who are non-white. EdBuild's prior school funding research has shown that under our school funding system, both poor communities and school systems that are largely non-white end up with far fewer resources. Students in poor non-white districts are twice disadvantaged when it comes to school funding, receiving a much less even than students in poor white districts. This is the national reality, but this national picture cannot explain why these inequities exist. That is because the case is not national. not only national, it's also local. So racial diversity also has numerous benefits, including improved academic achievement, understanding of other races, and positive long-term outcomes, as said in For the Complementary Benefits of Racial and Socioeconomic Diversity in Schools by Jennifer Askew, which was a research brief in March 2017, said racial diversity has numerous benefits, including improved academic achievement, enhanced intergroup relations, and positive long-term life outcomes. Each is important for developing communities, well-being, and social cohesion. Racially diverse learning environments have positive impacts on academic achievements for all students of all races. Students of color achieve higher levels in racially diverse schools than in segregated schools. In addition, the earlier that students experience desegregated learning, in order to develop a united society, all of those things are important. Research shows how racially diverse learning environments have positive impacts on academic achievement for students of all races. Kids of color tend to achieve at higher levels in racially diverse schools than in segregated schools where they are surrounded by only minorities. Desegregated learning environments have positive impacts on academic success.